Welcome everyone to the Newly podcast, where you get practical, no BS insights on how to grow yourself and grow your career. On this episode, we have my friend Tim Davidson. Tim is the director of marketing for Directive, and he's also a TikTok sensation, a semi-funny B2B video sensation. Thank you so much for joining us, Tim. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be great. I'm so excited. I've been excited to talk to you ever since I've watched your journey on LinkedIn and as you've been sharing more and more content, relevant, funny content for sure. But why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I currently work at a performance marketing agency, and I'm on the growth side. So I'm bringing in new clients. But my role has obviously changed over the years just because of the content side of things, where I do create a lot more content, video content. And then even right now, just a current thing I'm trying to do is really get into events, but doing them in a different way. So I just pitched a big event kind of schedule, got it approved. So I'm pretty excited for the next couple months.
Heck yes, stoked. That's awesome. That's very cool. So you've told us a little bit about yourself. Why don't you tell us sort of your A to B story, like how you started in your career and how you got to where you're at right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually went to college for zoology. I wanted to
No.
train hyenas and tigers and things like that. I failed out of biology, so I kind of shifted to the easiest
Ooh,
course there was, which was
rough.
business and marketing.
Yeah.
I ended up liking marketing, but I did take a lot of like psychology classes and things like that. So I think it did all kind of play together in that sense. And I still do, do some dog training on the side, and I'll do stuff like that. So I do kind of, I think I'll get back to it at some point. It's just, I do like marketing a lot as well. But out of college, I worked in sales, selling marketing services. I got fired from both of the first two ones I had because I'm a terrible salesperson, which is how I am a marketer. But
Yeah.
I did learn a lot from that because it did help me kind of learn how to be a sales person with the email follow-ups and the emails, and how to be a little bit different. And that did help me get some jobs over the years, just because of like the follow-up and all the things you have to do that as a salesperson that you learn from that. And then I started working at a small marketing agency here in Rochester, New York, where I live. I was going to be the law firm lawyer. I was going to be like the law firm marketer of the world. That was like my goal. That and HVAC. But I turned into like a B2B marketer about 3.5 years ago. And I don't think I'll ever go back because I do like the B2B marketing aspect of it because there's so much opportunity. Over the years, my role has shifted. Started getting really active on LinkedIn and TikTok and creating videos. And that's obviously just really been a game changer for my career, just to meet a lot of new people, and just be able to get my personal brand, but also, Directive's brand out there as well in a different way than I've been able to do in the past. So it's been a very fun journey, and I'm excited to kind of keep going with it.
Yeah, I'm so excited to dig into your career journey a little bit more as we dig into the topic. So, our topic today is growing your career with content experimentation. And it sounds like you've done a lot of that over the years. So, what would when was the sort of time in your career where it started to click to you that content was the way to really drive leads?
Yeah. So one of the earlier parts, and this is less about content, but more of like messaging, I guess, which
Mhm.
did turn into content, was when I was working at the agency where I was marketing for lawyers and HVAC companies, roofers, things like that. Because my background's in paid media, so Google ads, LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads. But in those industries, everyone's throwing money at Google ads, right? Everyone's throwing money
Yeah.
at the pay-per-click and all that. And I got really good at the targeting. Like that was fine, and that became a commodity. But what made it work better was the copy, the message, the imagery. I really started to dive into those things, and that's what started to grow those spends, grow those companies because of the smaller things that were past all the targeting, all that stuff that everyone can do. And that really stuck in my mind of how to grow companies or do better at paid ads or something like that. And that's when at Directive, I started really diving into why all that stuff matters, the content, the messaging, the creative, and then I started posting on LinkedIn. And that was like everyone else. You start posting text images. And everyone does that, and it's easier. I believe it's easier. I think there's a huge opportunity there
Mm-hmm.
because it's easier. Like you don't have to really put yourself out there.
Mm.
But about 2 years ago, I started creating videos,
Mm.
and that was very nerve-wracking, and
Yeah.
still can be. My first one I created, edited it. It took me like a month to put out because I was so nervous about the feedback on it.
Oh man,
It
yeah.
was terrible. Don't get me wrong, it was terrible. But I would say in the last 2 years, creating videos like that have really changed my content strategy tremendously. The
Okay.
creative output, the just the being different in the feed, because especially on LinkedIn, there's not a lot of videos, but also just videos that are more, I don't know, have a like I say that they're a little comedic to them, like the edutainment side of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I saw a huge opportunity there and just started testing those, and it's evolved over the years. And I'm just so glad I did start getting the video. There's just a huge opportunity. There's still such a huge opportunity for a lot of creators.
Right. I think so too. I think what's crazy is I think COVID has really given or gave people a lot of, I mean, people got bored, right? Like it
Mhm.
gave people a lot of time to kind of think about how they wanted to pivot their personal brands. For you, like what does it mean when it really started to click for you that a personal brand was important in, content experimentation, content creation? How did it, yeah, when did that start to click for you? Like the whole personal brand thing?
Uh, Truthfully, I knew about it in like 2015.
Yeah.
Just spent 6 years convincing myself that I was going to put myself out there and fail, so I didn't do it. It's really
Ooh.
sad, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
I spent way too much time just. I would try for like a month, stop or something like that. But then I started, really getting into it and kind of just being consistent.
Yeah.
Then you started seeing the DM. So this was probably like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when I actually like consistently started posting.
Mhm.
And this is when I started get like the messages or people saying, having questions at companies that I thought were like they would never want. Like I just thought there's a great company and they have questions for me, and it's just so
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Yeah.
So when I started getting those, or just people recognizing me on LinkedIn, not like in person, it's not a thing yet,
Yeah.
but those really just stuck out to me on like the importance of it and how it's just because it's just networking at scale.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great, I love that. Content creation is networking at scale. Geez, we're getting a lot of feedback in the chat here. Uh, Tim, or
Can you
Trevor,
respond to them on here?
yeah, I don't think I can, but
Okay,
Trevor Noah or Noah.
you're
Oh,
gonna
I wish it was
yeah.
Trevor Noah. Trevor Van Warden talked about how did the B2B people respond to your cardboard sign? That's cool. And then he said something about does Directive even have other employees?
Very funny.
Uh-oh, you're gonna get in trouble here, man. um, and Kurt talks about how he's definitely been there. That it's people start recognizing you and it gets weird, right? Like
Yeah.
how does that even happen? But so continuing on with this whole content experimentation thing, was it weird when people started to recognize you when your personal brand really started to kind of, I guess, pop for a lack of a better word?
Yeah, and when I say recognize me, it's not like I went to the gym and like someone recognized me. I meant
Yeah.
like more, like even if I was just trying to buy a software and the person was like, "Oh, I've seen your stuff on LinkedIn." I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's all right. That's pretty cool."
Yeah.
It's more like that, or like go to an event and like someone recognize you. That's really
Yeah.
really crazy to me still.
How do you feel like that's opened doors for you? Because I feel like as I've started to get more consistent in my content creation, it's opened some doors for me, even sometimes that I don't even realize. What would you say to that?
It's open to like count just it's so many doors. I mean, there is
Yeah.
people. So here's an example. There is people that like there are people that have like big personal brands or like they were CMOs, VPs at these huge companies that I've reached out to before. I've 100% reached out to before for whatever reason. There may have been like we try to get them on a podcast for our company or
Yeah.
to do something.
Mhm.
Didn't get the time of the day.
Mm.
But then as I built my personal brand, they knew who I was.
Yeah.
They responded, or I saw them at an event and they knew who I like. I didn't think this person would know who I am, but they knew who I was. And they were like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I've seen some of your stuff."
Mhm.
That stuff blew my mind, and that like opens up doors because it's just like you have this access that you didn't have because they feel like they know you.
Yeah. Oh, that is such a good point. Yes. You do have that access. It's like it kind of proves what you said about content is building relationships at scale or relationship building at scale. It like gives you an opportunity to build rapport with someone that you've never even met before in crazy ways.
Yeah.
So what's give me an example of a time when where content opened a door for you where you were like, no way, I can't believe that this happened.
Well, I mean, this podcast,
Yeah,
I don't think we would have talked if I wasn't posting on LinkedIn or
that's
creating
true.
content.
That's very
Yeah,
true.
that's a
Yeah.
great example. Other podcasts I've been on, similar story. I wouldn't be. Let me be clear. I wouldn't be asked at podcasts if I wasn't posting on LinkedIn and creating
Yep.
content.
Hmm.
No one's gonna find me, right? I'm not not a CMO at Drift or CMO at some big company. They're not gonna just come out and find you. Just from that alone, the podcast or speaking engagements, that alone has been like a huge eye opening.
Right. Yeah, I think people don't realize, especially in the sales end. I think a lot of salespeople are worried to put themselves out there, because what if they make someone mad, or what
It's
if,
great.
yeah, it's like it's interesting because I think that the mercy of the algorithm is if you make crappy content, no one's going to see it, no one's going to care
Yeah, and
as
no
long as
one's
it's
gonna remember
crappy in the
it.
right way, not like offending people or yeah,
The thing is, no one's gonna remember either.
yeah,
There's so much content. There's so much. You're doing so many things. If you put out something that sucks, to your point, the algorithm's not gonna show it,
yeah,
or they'll see it and they'll forget about it.
yeah,
Doesn't matter. It's just that was an eye opening thing for me too, just to kind of like think about internally because it doesn't really matter what. Obviously, you don't want to just put out. You don't want to be. You don't want to put out something that's going to like make you go viral in a bad way.
right,
But you do if you put something out, it's for 99% of it. If it isn't good, no one's going to see it. No one's going to remember it. So it doesn't really matter.
right, right. Yeah, I think so. What the thing that's been interesting to me is understanding how to grow my personal brand with content, trying to sort of step out of that like milk toast fear of like having an opinion or a point of view. And I feel like there's a lot of your content has had like really interesting points of view. And I've noticed I'm afraid to really sometimes like dig into that point of view because I don't want to like, I
Yeah.
don't know, offend somebody. What would you say to that? What would you say to somebody that's worried about that?
Yeah. It's really tough because the last thing you want is like comments that are saying, you're wrong, your data's wrong, or
Yeah.
that's the last thing you want. I think I've become numb to it at this point, and I would also say LinkedIn's overall. Like if I post something on LinkedIn versus TikTok, I could post the same thing. TikTok comments are gonna be a lot worse.
Yeah.
The LinkedIn overall, I would say I'm not like a scale of like a Justin Welsh or anything like that, but I would say are pretty good. Like
Yeah.
no one's really that bad on LinkedIn. They're not gonna like blast you,
Yeah.
but that's what you don't want, right? But I would say there's a lot of healthy conversations. So
Mm.
I, it's hard because you do want to be confident in that point of view. But if you're not at that confidence level for whatever reason, it's going to be hard. But I would just say again, like we were mentioned earlier, if it's not good, people are just not going to remember. Yeah, you might get a couple comments debating it. I think those are healthy. I think those are very healthy. Even responding to those are very. You should respond to those because those are healthy debates, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if no one even responds, or you get a bad couple comments, no one's going to remember in 2 days anyway. So why not? It's
Yeah.
only upside if you think about it. If you put a point of view out there and people actually like it, and there's always going to be both sides of it. If you think about it, there's always going to be the side that hates it, and there's going to be the side that likes it.
Hmm.
I think that side that likes it is more important because that's how you gain people that are bought in. That's how you get people to come back to.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Kurt in the comments says if you're only getting positive comments, then you're not pushing innovation in the topics. Yeah. I think what would
Yeah,
you say to that? How would you respond to that?
I think it's very true. Except I won't get a lot of bad comments, so I'm like in my head, I'm like, oh shoot, am I doing something wrong? I don't get a
Well,
lot of
I
bad
mean,
comments because I
yeah.
don't know. And
Yeah.
I would also say I purposely put in like I purposely put in a comedy aspect to it. Like I try to make it lighthearted,
Yeah. Yeah.
just because I am afraid of the bad comments too. So even when I talk bad about sales, if I say it in a funny way, you can't really be mad at me that
Right.
much because I'm
Yeah.
trying to be because I also make fun of myself. So it's
Yeah.
like I make fun of myself, like it's okay to make fun of you. I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but because of I try to make it lighthearted. I don't get a lot of bad comments because you can't really be mad if I make fun of myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. I think humor is an incredible way of infusing like a little bit of lightheartedness in that. And I know I think it says on your profile that they're semi-funny videos. I would say they're funny videos. They're not semi-funny. They're definitely funny.
I'm trying to
Um,
set expectations here. I don't want everyone to be like, "Oh, is it hilarious?" And then the expectation's too high. And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
we still have some work to do to get to that funny. Yeah.
Well, what has been the funnest video that you shot? Like the one that was the most enjoyable for you, that got the most
Mm.
engagement? What was that?
It's
That's
it's
probably an
hard to
impossible
say.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I've created a lot, just especially in this past year. I like creating. It's a really tough question. I do like creating different kind of videos, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't say there's one that specifically, just because whatever that one, because what ends up actually happening is the ones I think are going to do well don't do well, and the ones that I think are gonna tank do well.
Isn't that crazy? So
It
nuts.
happens every time. And then
Yeah.
there's always like the middle ones. And,
Yeah.
Trevor saying like B2B Ross. I do like that. I like that because I could also learn to paint. So there's like a fun aspect to it as well.
Ooh. Yeah.
Um, so I don't know, it'll be fun. It'll be
Yeah.
fun to come back to this question because there's so many different ones. I think
Right.
one recently that I really like, it's not even a video. It's just a picture of me holding a sign at an event.
Yeah.
I like that because uh, it was just interesting how cheap it was and people actually liked it. A lot of people like stopped, took a picture. It
Yeah.
was interesting.
That's that's brilliant. That was brilliant. I love that you played off of that meme and you kind of took it into real life in like an experiential way. That was really, really great. Did you get a lot of response from that besides just like people taking pictures? Like, did it drive any? I mean, not trying to be like sales, but did it drive any leads?
No, I hear you. Yeah, it's hard to say in the leads part.
Yeah,
It was only a couple weeks. I think it was a week and a half ago now.
yeah,
Um, so here's what I got from it. There's a bunch of people that like it because there's obviously other booths around there.
yeah.
Not a lot of people got people to stop and take pictures and send it to people at Slack. And there was people that came up to me and said, I sent this to our team in Slack. So like that to me, it was really cool. There was also people that posted about it on LinkedIn. That was really cool to me. There has been, I saw just recently, there was an email that someone's using and it has I don't care if they tag me or not, but they're using that picture as like in the email. That was really cool to me.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah,
there's the post I did about it did pretty well. There was people that have, so I did it like, there was a 3-day conference. No, it was 2 days. Yeah, 3 days. There's people calling me the sign guy.
the sign guy. Yeah,
So I would say it was successful in that sense. More to
yeah,
come, I would say. I would
yeah.
say there's more to come, and I'm pretty pumped about what's going to happen in September.
I'm looking forward to seeing the case study LinkedIn post about it to see how it drove
Oh
revenue
yeah,
for
and I tried something else too that didn't work, so we'll talk about that at some point soon.
you. Okay. Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so I don't know, I just have so many questions for you, but I think I want to make sure that our audience gets what they as much as they can out of this. So let's say there's somebody who has been a LinkedIn lurker for a long time. They know that they want to start sharing content to kind of drive maybe whatever their sales opportunities, their career opportunities. Maybe they're pivoting in their career and they want to drive more leads for themselves for job opportunities, and they're afraid to start posting. What would you tell them? How should they start, and what would you tell them?
It's a tough question because I can give all the classic answers. You have to do, and they're the right answers, but they're the classic answers. Like
Yeah.
you just need to do it. It's your first 10 are going to suck, no doubt about it, 100%. But they'll get better. Uh, you need to obviously like know what you want to talk about. You can document versus create, which is like what did you learn that day, right? I
Mm,
think there is an aspect to that where you can just put out what you learn. I mean, even like right now, I think there's a huge opportunity of people that are new to B2B marketing, new to a certain industry or anything like that. Like talking about that would be pretty interesting to people. Like I know there's a lot of like teachers moving to software. I
Yeah.
think people talking about that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Events, if someone listening to this and they put on the HubSpot inbound SaaStr Dreamforce, if you start talking about the event, what it took to make that event, you'd
Hmm.
go crazy on LinkedIn, guarantee it.
Yeah.
Um, so to your question, really, you need to just put out something. It doesn't have to be good, doesn't have to be great, doesn't have to be okay. You need to put out something because you're not going to get the feedback without it. Um, and I know it's tough, but if you just do it consistently, maybe 3 times a week for 3 months, one of those is going to get the feedback you need to keep going. So all you need is like one good feedback.
Yeah.
And keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the more, like to your point earlier about consistency, like the more consistent you are, even if it's like mediocre content, which it always is in the beginning. It's always kind of
Yeah.
crappy and
Oh,
mediocre. But, as you're consistent, people start to want to talk to you, have conversations with you, um, want to give you feedback, and then you kind of can iterate on that. Um, can you tell me about how you've learned what kind of content really hits off with people besides just like obviously engagement? But how have you learned to sort of hone your voice and your content as you've been making it?
yeah. I would say so for me, I think there is a good mix of finding something that's niche enough to what you talk about. So
Hmm.
some of my stuff I talk about is very niche. It's like LinkedIn ads or ABM one-to-one, creating those kind of ads. It's very niche to the people that are going to be creating, those ads, paid media, director of demand gen, that type of role.
Right.
Those are very niche. And so they might not get a lot of engagement, but they do get those DMs where people ask you questions or people will tag you because of that content and that's very
Hmm.
specific. So I think there's something to specificity, but I also think you should have ones that are not as specific. Maybe it's B2B marketing in general, or maybe it's about the B2B. Like for me, it's like the B2B buying process is like a bigger overarching one. It's not as niche because it brings in a lot of different departments, brings in pretty
Yeah.
much the whole company.
Yeah.
Same with marketing and sales. That brings in both the departments, not too niche. I think there is a need to do both. And I also think I think Will Aiken does this very well, where there's the edutainment. So there's like, yeah, be funny for half of your posts. And then there's like, here's the actual tactics.
Yeah.
Here's like 3 things you could do. Here's the real tactics on the other half. And I think that's a good combination
Hmm.
because if you just do edutainment, if you just do like funny stuff, you're going to lose a lot of the people that are on LinkedIn for, actual tactics that can help them in their
Right.
career.
Right. Hmm. Yeah.
I would say it's finding that kind of mix of niche, like the really tactical, and then maybe something that's a little bit higher, more broad.
Yeah. I think that's such a smart, it's just such a smart call out, mostly because I think I heard this statistic. Maybe I'm not sure how true it is, but I heard that like 1 to 2% of people that are on LinkedIn are actually creating content, which means you have an insanely captive audience. So, like you
Yeah.
said, like having a mix of content, some humor, some tactical, can really drive a lot of people to your profile. And yeah, and I also think too, the unique thing about humor, especially humor in the B2B space, is we tend to forget, like, I think it's Chris Bogue that says this, but like just because your job title changes doesn't mean you suddenly like don't like humor, or it doesn't mean you
Yeah.
suddenly like don't want to laugh about things
We're all
or
humans. We all
yeah,
have the same issues. We all, like
yeah,
dogs don't. You all like cats or not. Like it's not like the people change because they're a chief information officer versus a chief marketing officer or customer officer who might be a little bit lighthearted. They both still have
exactly.
dogs or cats or kids or their grandparents or whatever it is. They're all still people. They all go to the museum. Like they all do the same things. They all garden. It's all the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And Trevor talks about I think the number of people who are heavily engaged is way lower than 1%, which
Mm,
maybe that's true. Maybe that's
it's
true.
low.
I mean, I know when I've just been consistent in my content, it's been kind of crazy to me that like how my followers have shot up and it's like I'm not even sharing anything that exciting. It's just, growing your career, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not any semi-funny videos like you are. So who knows?
There's
Maybe I
also
should
a
start.
lot of lurkers. We all know that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's completely fair.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so we're coming to the end of our time. We got about 5 minutes left. I like to keep it short and sweet for people, but I have two rapid fire questions. But before we get to those questions, I wanted to give you one last uh, sort of plug for how content experimentation has really changed your career. So let's pretend that you go back in time and you can talk to young Tim way before he even realized that content creation was important. What would be, you can only tell him three things. What would be the three things that you would tell him?
Thanks. Oh wow. Lean into what makes you different.
Ooh, yeah.
So bring out the colorful shirts. Do the fruit early. Like lean into what makes you like a little different.
Yeah,
And don't be scared of it. Start earlier. Yeah, if I started earlier, I can't imagine.
right.
Um, and also create friendships outside of the content. So reach out to people. See, pick their brains, but like, how can you be helpful to them? Like, I think the network effect. Yeah, you can do that on the content side, but even if you're not creating content, there is a big opportunity there just to because the old saying, know who you. It's all about who you know, or something like that.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
really is true.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think it's not necessarily in a bad way, like about who you know. It's just people like doing business with people they know and people they like, you know? It's
100%.
simple.
It doesn't need to be a lot. It could just be like you don't need to be best friends. You could just know them very simply. It's really sometimes it's all it takes.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, so let's get to these rapid fire questions. I loved your response to your younger self. I think all of those things are very relevant. So the first rapid fire question, and I'm really curious to hear this from you. What is the most random job that you have ever had?
Most random. It's actually my first job. I worked at an amusement park, and I was
Cool.
maintenance. So when I say maintenance, that is garbage. That's cleaning up after kids that puke,
Oh,
and all that stuff.
yeah,
Uh, and it was fun because I did it with a lot of friends from high school. So it
yeah.
was fun in that sense. We were able to drive. I'm a 15-year-old, 14-year-old kid driving golf carts around amusement park. Just hanging out with the friends. It was a really good job. You were outside the whole time.
Yeah.
It was weird, but it was a good job.
It actually sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
that
pretty
sounds
good.
really
It
fun.
was pretty good.
Okay, so last rapid fire question. What is the worst career advice that you have ever gotten?
Hmm. Um, I've ever gotten. I would say. Oh, I mean, I don't know if it's like you can put this in one sentence, but like it's like the classic route. Like pick a route and go for it. Like, for example, you're a marketing specialist, manager, then you're director, then you're VP, then you're a CMO.
Hmm.
I don't think I think CMOs and VPs are in a lot of meetings. I don't know if I'd ever want to do that.
Mm,
So I'm not sure if I think you can find your own route.
yeah, yeah. I like that. Yeah, like that kind of the worst career advice is that like you have to follow like that
Yeah, the
well-trod path
classic
or
career path. Yeah, you
yeah,
have to follow that. No, you don't.
yeah.
You really don't.
Yeah, and I think it's so smart that you know that like I don't want to be in a lot of meetings, like
I'm terrible at
CMO
it.
would be a cool title, but I'm not into that, like
Yeah, I
yeah.
would love to put it on my LinkedIn profile. Do not get me wrong, but yeah, that sounds like a lot of meetings and a lot of it doesn't
Oof.
sound fun.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Tim, and thank you
It's
everyone who
funny.
joined us today. You can find this podcast and all relevant podcasting channels. It will go live in 2 weeks on Monday on those podcasting channels. And like and share with friends if you feel like this information would benefit them in some way. And join us again next week live at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time for the Newly podcast, where you get more practical no BS insights on how to grow yourself and grow your career. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.